Ever look closely at a cupcake and wonder exactly what those bright red sprinkles are made of? And more importantly, is it true that they contain crushed up insects? To find out, we have to look at the highly guarded factory process that turns ordinary pantry staples into tiny, colorful rods. Sprinkles are precise industrial products, manufactured with the same rigor as any other processed food. If you look at the ingredients, you'll see that a single bottle is made of up to 70. Inside the factory, workers heat this spot in a large tank of water. This solves a specific chemical problem. Unlike sugar, which easily dissolves in a glass of water, solid fat repels water. So the factory has to constantly stir and heat the shortening until it melts into a liquid state. Once that liquid fat is perfectly smooth, it is finally piped into a massive dry mixer, alongside the powdered sugar, a little cornstarch, and the food coloring. Blending that separate heated liquid fat into the dry powder is the only way to get these ingredients to bind together. After a few minutes, they form a smooth, slightly damp dough that is firm enough to hold a shape. This diagram shows a cross-section of an extruder machine. Heavy rollers force the dough through a metal plate filled with tiny holes. As the dough squeezes out, it emerges as long strings. It looks like wet sugar spaghetti. Because the dough is still damp, it would immediately clump together in a massive pile. To fix this, the strings drop directly onto a conveyor belt that carries them through a tunnel maintained at exactly 50% humidity. A steady flow of air inside that tunnel dries the dough in about 10 seconds, locking the strands into their shape before they have a chance to stick to one another. The classic sprinkles you see at the ice cream shop, which the manufacturing world calls jimmies, are created using the exact same mechanical pressing techniques we use to make dry pasta. But we don't eat sprinkles in long spaghetti strings. To break them down, workers load the dried strands into a large, rotating machine that looks like a cement mixer. This process is called panning. As the heavy drum spins, the strands tumble over one another. This friction naturally snaps the strings into the tiny rods we recognize. Timing here is critical. If the dough stays in the mixer for longer than 10 minutes, the constant grinding will break the pieces down into a useless powder and ruin the entire batch. By carefully timing this chaotic tumbling, the factory uses a controlled mechanical shortcut to size millions of sprinkles simultaneously, without a single cutting blade in sight. Now, what about those bright red sprinkles, and the bug question we asked earlier? Well, to get that vibrant red color, scientists often use a natural dye called carminic acid. This photo shows exactly where that dye comes from. Those white fluffy clusters growing on the cactus are thousands of tiny cochineal insects. When crushed, they produce a completely safe, deep red liquid that gives many foods their bright color. Whether they are dyed with insect extract or standard food coloring, the sprinkles need one final step. While they are still in the tumbling mixer, they get sprayed with confectioner's glaze and carnauba wax. If the name carnauba wax sounds familiar, it should. It is the exact same hard wax used to give candles their shape and to polish the exterior of cars. Adding that thin wax coating creates a crucial barrier. It locks the dye, insect or otherwise, safely inside the sprinkle, gives the candy its glossy shine, and keeps the colors from bleeding outward the second they touch wet frosting. You might have noticed we've only talked about one color at a time. That's because a multicolored mix cannot be made in a single batch. Every individual color is manufactured from scratch in its own separate factory lane. Once a color is finished, it is poured over a vibrating wire mesh screen. The holes in the mesh catch any oversized clumps, while letting the dust-sized fragments fall away, leaving only perfectly sized pieces. Finally, massive volumes of the red, blue, green, and yellow sprinkles are dumped into one enormous mixer and gently tumbled together for 5 minutes. That rainbow sprinkles you pull out of your pantry is actually the culmination of multiple distinct manufacturing pipelines merged into a single product right at the very end. When you think about it, a sprinkle is mostly just flavorless sugar wrapped in car wax. We add them to desserts because of how they influence our senses. Seeing a dense cluster of bright, contrasting colors can actually change our mood. Humans often associate these high-contrast rainbow palettes with their earliest memories of childhood celebrations. Then there's the sensory impact. When you bite into a soft slice of cake or a scoop of ice cream, the sudden, crisp snap of that hard wax coating provides a deeply satisfying physical contrast. By combining sugar pasta, insect dye, and a hard wax shell, Sprinkles use a brilliant mix of industrial food science and sensory triggers to trick the human brain into feeling an instant burst of joy.